Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. I've been your host and beat reporter since August 2019, and we are continuing to push forward through another season together. As always, you can find us on social media such as Facebook and Twitter. You'll find our 100% free 24/7 boots on the ground content at Jaguars on SI, and you can also find us at www.si.com/NFL/Jaguars. All right, folks, welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. I am your host and beat reporter. Today we are talking about a lot of quarterback news for the Jaguars' Week 15 matchup with the New York Jets. Oh, how far these two teams have strayed since they picked 1 and 2 in the 2021 NFL Draft. There would have been a real scenario where the New York Jets had the number 1 pick that year. Obviously would have picked Trevor Lawrence to move forward as their guy. Frank Gore ends up getting a big first down. I believe it was against the Los Angeles Rams. And the rest is history. Jets take Zach Wilson. A lot of people argue online for about a year and a half. Zach Wilson fails terribly. And then the Jets have just been in turmoil. The Aaron Rodgers, kind of debacle. They fire Robert Saleh. This year they hire Aaron Glenn, who I was very high on Aaron Glenn in the process of the Jaguars, looking at coaching candidates. I was a big fan of Aaron Glenn's. Definitely been rough for them this season. I think, obviously, the issues they've dealt with at the quarterback position. They made a bet on Justin Fields that just, frankly, did not work out. Whether it was a smart bet, obviously, can be debated, but you can judge the results, and they are what they are. The Jets at the quarterback position all year have kind of been in flux. You've had Fields in and out of the lineup, whether injuries, benching. You've had Tyrod Taylor, come in there as of late. He gets hurt last week against the Dolphins, and as a result, the Jets put undrafted rookie quarterback Brady Cook in. Brady Cook obviously played at Missouri. He's an athletic guy. I think can do some things with his legs. But you watch him against the Dolphins. You see his numbers. You see the tape. Obviously looked like a third-string undrafted rookie kind of being thrown to the wolves. In a lot of ways, I think back to Tom Brady and what he's been saying about the quarterback position in recent years, and how he just thinks there's a real lack of development at a position and lack of quarterbacks developing. And I think where it really speaks to is when it gets to the quarterback depth in the league. It's a lot of talented starters, but the fact that, for example, the Indianapolis Colts are better off going with a 44-year-old Phillip Rivers over other option in the league says a lot. And I'm not even necessarily sure that they're wrong. So, ultimately, where the Jets are is they have one of these quarterbacks who, is what he is. Obviously, there's not a lot of tape on him, but I think that nobody is going to mistake him for a future franchise quarterback or anything like that. If you're Brady Cook, best case scenario is you play well enough to be seen as a solid backup, kind of go on a Gardner Minshew kind of run. He did not, obviously, get off to the best start against the Dolphins and took 100% of the reps in Wednesday's practice, according to Jets reporters, as Tyrod Taylor and Justin Fields both were out with injuries. And if the Jaguars get Brady Cook now, in Week 15, at home, you have to think like the defense could be in for potentially their best performance of the season. And I'm not trying to take anything away from him. Breece Hall, A.D. Mitchell, Amon Mbao. They have some good players. They really do. But it is what it is. It is the nature of the NFL. And I don't think the Jaguars would operate with that mindset. Granted, I think they'll be confident, but I don't think they're going to overlook a guy. Because, we've seen Jake Browning beat them. We've seen Davis Mills beat them. The Jaguars have as many losses to backup quarterbacks this year as they do the starting quarterbacks. 2. So the Jaguars keenly know that they can't overlook a guy. But, this is a Jaguars unit that's just played exceptional lately. It really, really has. They've been strong in the back end, much stickier coverage. They're playing, as I've said, very physical. I think especially in the run game. They gang tackle. They've done a good job at forcing turnovers. Anthony Campanile does a good job of mixing his fronts, coverages, blitz packages. He really does a good job of finding ways to bring pressure and of also finding ways to scheme the defensive line and kind of just letting 4 get out the quarterback. Because I think most defensive coordinators, if you had to pick what's the best way to play defense, it's to rush 4 and drop 7. And I think the Jaguars have been impressive as of late when they've done that. We'll obviously see, Brady Cook improves from first appearance to his first start. But I think for a Jaguars defense that has been trending upward, that has players playing well at all 3 levels of the defense, I think that it makes a lot of sense to think this is a pretty big, advantageous matchup for them. That this is one that they can really take advantage of. As for across the sideline, the Jaguars have their own little quarterback storyline to watch this week. Now, I want to preface this by saying I don't think this is anything serious. But, of course, when you see the starting quarterback placed on the injury report for any reason, and when he is not a full participant for any reason, then it is, simply put, something worth monitoring. So Trevor Lawrence was listed on Wednesday's injury report as limited with an ankle injury. He didn't, obviously, come out of the game on Sunday against the Colts until they put the backups in, obviously, but it didn't appear that was injury related or anything like that. There was, to me, the fact that he spoke at his regularly scheduled media availability, I think probably tells you that this isn't all that big of a deal. A lot of times when a quarterback's facing injury and there's a question of whether he'll play, they won't have him speak or they'll have another quarterback speak. So I'm not saying because Lawrence spoke at his press conference on Wednesday, he's fine, but I do think it is a data point worth considering. And also for Wednesday practices, if you want to take this into consideration, those are the lightest practices of the week from a physical standpoint. As we've been telling you guys for the last couple of weeks, Liam Cohen, doesn't have them do one-on-ones. They're not in pads or anything like that on Wednesdays. So his status on Thursday and Friday are actually much more important. So I don't think it's anything to run to the hills or concern about. I don't think Nick Mullins is going to start this weekend. But I think anytime a quarterback is on the injury report, it's something worth looking at through the week. So we'll see what the rest of the week brings for Trevor Lawrence on the injury front. We'll obviously see what Liam Cohen has to say about it on Friday. But at this point in time, and maybe this changes in the next 24, 48 hours, but at this point in time, I don't anticipate there to be any reason to think that Trevor Lawrence will not be on the field in Week 15 when the Jaguars suit up to kick off against the New York Jets. Big game for the Jaguars. Fourier, Oluokun said in the locker room that they look at a 4-game championship type run. They got to win all 4. It's a big one. Thank you guys for joining me. As always, we'll be back next time.